After those last 4 or 5 chapters, we really needed chapter 24. We get to take a deep breath and really enjoy some science. Hello and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're checking out and reacting to chapter 24 of Project Hail Mary. You know the deal. If you want to follow along, there's a link in the description to Amazon. You can buy the book, supports the channel, and we're doing this every single day. So here we go. Ryland has now come to grips with the fact that he's a coward. Not come to grips, but he realizes now that he's not only a coward, but he's pissed off at Strat because Strat tricked him and controlled him and had him by his short hairs, as it were. And so Ryland is now doubling down on the fact that he wants to succeed and get back and maybe even have a conversation with Strat, which is hilarious because I don't agree with the way she did it, but she is in the right. You know, there's a difference between doing things right and doing things correct. She is correct. She wasn't 100% right. Talk about that another time, but with those definitions. But let's jump into the chapter. So he's counter spite at this point. She was a little spiteful when he said he wasn't going to go. Now he's counter spiteful, which is hilarious. Ryland and Rocky commiserate on the fact that the experiment doesn't work. And then Rocky comes back with, well, let's hold on a minute. Here's what we know. And that here's what we know scenario immediately sparks an idea for Ryland. So Ryland says, okay, here's what we're going to do. He asks Rocky to create several tanks of the Xenonite that are clear, where he can replicate all of the 3 different worlds. It's Adrian 3 world and Venus. With their 3 hours of thrust coming to a close, they have to now, and they're up to speed, they have to now re-engage the centrifuge machine. And Rocky's like, do we? And Ryland's like, yeah. And Ryland's like, but seriously, we do. We really, really do. So we can start testing. And Rocky's like, okay, but it's going to hurt you, right? Because they don't have the full power and mechanism on the ship needed to begin the thrust. So Ryland comes up with a good idea. He says, I'm going to go just lay down in the storage area and operate the centrifuge machine from there, and you can fire the beetle thrusters and begin to spin. And Rocky's like, yeah, but you passed out last time. He's like, yeah, but if I'm in the storage area, it's less gravitational forces and we'll maybe be able to do it. So they have to do that because they don't have all the resources of the ship's navigation system to be able to begin, to be able to unlock the centrifuge mechanism and then begin to spin. They have to begin the spin first and then do it. But Ryland survives. And now they can begin doing their experiments, which is really, really cool. Now that Ryland has more time for testing, he creates vessels for all 3 worlds and places for the Talmiba and the astrophage to interact. The first vessel he makes is of Adrian, of course. It's his test. It's the original. It's the safe test. Of course, it works. Then he tells Rocky that he's now created an environment for both 3 world and Venus, right? And of course, the Talmiba have died. Then he gets the idea, okay, let's see what temperature range the Talmiba can handle. And of course, thankfully, they can handle a wide range. They'll be able to survive in both planets, 3 world and Venus. He also confirms that they also need CO2 to survive, just like the astrophage. That seems all well and good. Then Ryland creates a mostly Venus atmosphere that has 3.5% nitrogen on top of the CO2 that's there. So it's 96.5% CO2, 3.5% nitrogen, and it kills the Talmiba. Then he does the same thing with 3 world. Kills the Talmiba. Bad news, right? Wrong. He believes that he can generate and create nitrogen-resistant Talmiba, similar to, and he explains this to Rocky, antibiotics and bacteria, a bacterial infection. So if you have a bacterial infection and you take antibiotics, antibiotics kill 99%, right? But bacteria evolves similar to, he believes, Talmoeba and astrophage. So what he can do is create breeder tanks and condition the Talmoeba to survive through percentage points of nitrogen over a long period of time, right? So he's got like 10 tanks at this point, and he's going to do all of these tests. Rocky is pretty amazed by all of this, and they don't have bacteria, they don't have sickness in the same way humans do, so their interaction, their human moments, as I like to call them, obviously Rocky's not a human, but they're human interactions, non-scientific. You get a lot of that here in this chapter, which I love. You get the points where he gets to talk to Rocky about the food that they eat and how, you know, Ryland's like, can I test your food? And he finds out that Rocky's food kills him because it's got thallium in it. He finds out that there's the antibodies and all of this sort of stuff. He kind of explains that humans are weak in a lot of ways in terms of physical condition, but when it comes to microbiology, humans are actually pretty efficient creatures in how soft they are. We're all a little bit soft, right? Pretty cool. After a few days, Ryland confirms to Rocky that the tests seem to be working, and they now have functioning Talmoeba up to 0.01%. A few days later, they're all the way up to 0.6% nitrogen. By that point, they're beginning their slow down maneuvers to get to the blip A. See, they're almost back to the blip A. Evolution takes time, ladies and gentlemen. They're almost back to the blip A. Here's the cool part. Another great Rocky moment. There's a lot of great moments in between the two of them. They bicker a little bit. They're funny a little bit. They're joking with each other some. They've got that brother thing. I just got off a call with William just a minute ago to talk about some channel stuff. And even we have like little intricate ways of speaking and talking about resources. And you can really feel the way that Rocky and Ryland communicate with the communication that I have with William. It's fantastic. So they have this moment. They're getting ready to slow down to go to the blip A. They decide to disengage the centrifuge mechanism. Ryland has to go lay down in his little cubby again and do the whole thing. But what's really awesome here is because by this point they've got functioning environments up to 0.6% nitrogen, and that they're continuing to test. That Rocky has set the blip A to fire its engines off every 20 minutes for a fraction of a second. Now, of course, the ship will move. Everything in space moves. In outer space, everything is moving. Everyone is moving. Everything is moving all the time. So they have to be able to calculate it. But they're using the petrovscope to see the ship's thrusters, which I thought was really, really thoughtful. When I got to that point, actually, in the book, I was like, oh, that's really smart. I did not even think about that until this moment. I figured they were just going to be able to find it and go back to the original point. But this is pretty thoughtful. And it's going to be a cool part in the movie. I hope it's in the movie because this is smart. It's thoughtful. People in the audience are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's really smart. Anyway, so 0.6 is their now new cutoff. Tank 1 to tank 10 are going to be 0.6, 0.6, 0.5, 0.65, 0.7, 0.75, 0.8, and then need to get up to at least 3.5 percentage points for nitrogen for Venus. And they need to get up to at least 8% for 3 World. So they're on their way. They're about to make it. And by the time they get back to blip A, where they can see it through the telescope because they've already spotted it through the petrovscope, they're about an hour away. At this point, it's pretty cool. Ryland and Rocky are masters of communicating, navigation, and steering. Rocky's doing the steering with the beetles that are attached to the outside of the ship. Ryland is doing all ahead full and doing all of the captainry. It's pretty cool. I actually kind of like this moment at the very end of the chapter because you're really getting to a point where you're seeing a human and alien who don't actually speak the same language but are communicating super, super well. It's awesome. Ryland doesn't even need, and someone mentioned this in the comments because I think I misspoke a day or two ago, that Ryland doesn't even need the computers anymore. He doesn't need, he can understand the symphonics of how Rocky communicates. And so that's so, I mean, they've been together for now maybe months, weeks, months. It's so cool. That's such a cool moment. They're able to vector the ship via communicating, and they're both translating in their own heads, and they're about an hour away. So we're getting to a point now where, and I'm sorry to say this, we're gonna have to say goodbye to Rocky. And I don't think it's gonna be in the next chapter. It might be in the next chapter, but it's definitely gonna be soon. And I'm a little bit beat up by it. Because one thing that Rocky has done is he's put Ryland in a position to be the most successful in every way. He's the right support system for Ryland. And I think it's really cool. I mean, one of the reasons why Ryland is so good for this mission isn't because of his knowledge of science. It is, that's part of it. But it's who he was before the trip. I mean, we spoke about it a little yesterday. What Strat did was, it had to happen. It had to, for Earth to survive. Let's not get it twisted. That is the correct decision. And it is mostly the right decision. I had probably communicated with Ryland months beforehand and said, hey, if anything were to remotely happen to these two folk, you are for sure the next one in line, and there are no questions asked. I think I would have communicated that, but regardless, without all of this happening to him, without him writing the paper, dealing with the other Strat's Avengers, dealing with Strat, without him discovering the astrophage things, without him having all of these successes and failures leading up to the point of the launch, and then waking up on the ship being clueless as to what's happening, to meeting Rocky, he is the ideal person. It is my belief that had Yao and the Russian engineer survived, I'm not sure that Ryland becomes the person he becomes and overcomes this adversity and challenges the norm and makes mistakes and gets better. Ryland, he's not my favorite protagonist. I don't know who would be my favorite protagonist in all fiction, but he's at least got these moments, and there are moments in each chapter where you see an evolution similar to the Talmud. So it's pretty cool. I'm glad this chapter's here. Gotta have a deep breath. We've got 6 chapters to go. They're gonna have to split resources and the Xenonite and everything. It's gonna be cool seeing the Xenonite go back to Earth. So I think that'll be it for me. Thank you for staying this long. This has been a really, really fun time. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and share. Also, once again, book on Amazon in the description below. Go ahead, buy the book. If you already have the book, that's fine. Buy something else. I'll receive a little bit of commission. It'll help the channel out, and we can just keep doing this fun stuff. I'll be looking for another book to start too, I think pretty soon. We're a week away from being finished, and I'm thinking something a little bit more along the lines of fantasy, because my brothers and I, we really love The Legend of Vox Machina and other fantasy kinds of things. It seems to be the narrative that we're going to be going on this ride. So be thinking about that. Maybe make some suggestions. But until next time, later, taters.